Is there anyone? I see some hands.
Okay.
Awesome. So we're coming into the Gulf War portion of this afternoon. I know everybody's had some food, had some drink, maybe feel a little sluggish. Usually every tank Aquino weekend, I started a little trend a few years ago. It turned out really, really well. Can everybody hear me at the bleachers down at the end down here? Yeah? How about way down the other side?
Pretty good.
Okay, just to stir things up and get everybody awake and ready to go, I think we need to have this massive set of bleachers do the wave. We're going to start from the far side, my right side or your left side, and we're going to go all the way down to the other end. Has everybody got it?
Yeah.
If we do it really well, we only have to do it once. So let's put lots of energy in it. From the far side, are you ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go! I need to hear screaming. More screaming. Louder screaming.
There it is.
Even louder screaming. There's a free car winning at the end. That's not. Okay. Now we're going to go to the far end. Down there, that side. Remember that you're going to win a free car. No, you're not. You ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. Where are the cameras and the recorders when you need them? I'm going to check in here real quick. We're getting close.
That's awesome.
We're about to start. All four. Let me bring out our narrative of the show. Take him, Jeremy Lawrence.
Good day, Aquino. How we doing? Hey. Wow. That show this morning was incredible. I've been doing this for over 10 years, and I still get excited every Aquino Tank weekend. This finale show of the afternoon, first we're going to start off with our World of Tanks simulated tank battle. So as you know, our sponsor this year is World of Tanks Modern Armor. Are there any World of Tanks gamers out there? Let me hear you. Yeah, there's some out there. Okay, so what we're going to do to open the show and get things started, you may have already heard a bunch of pops and bangs coming down there from the desert area. That's because they're testing the weapons. And as I just described this morning, you're going to experience something as close as you can get to understanding what our veterans went through in conflict.
Hey, Dad, you want to see an old
chaos of
there?
battle.
Look at that camera.
The loud noises, the
That
smoke,
is nice.
the ground will shake, and you will feel the concussion of the gun. So they're testing those weapons. Now, when you came in the gate today, we gave everybody some hearing protection. If you're really sensitive to this, this is where you would want to put that hearing protection in, because it's going to be exceptionally loud. So, I'm going to bring out the first tank of World of Tanks Battle Royale. I'm going to explain how it works, and then we'll bring out the contender. Marshall, send out the M60.
Send it the M60, yes.
Platform legacy vehicle. I believe that Greece just retired them, Spain still has a fleet of them, and many South American countries are still using the M60 as their main battle tank. So, in World of Tanks Battle Royale, it obviously compressed into the tank arena, but we're going to have two tanks duking it out here in the arena, and they're going to be firing at each other. It'll be maneuvering, it'll be fast, it'll be loud. But the fire, they're not actually firing around. This is a bit of a movie trick. I know we're using real firearms and real cannons in some of the reenactments. It's a very safe pyrotechnic. It's an oxygen propane mix with an electronic circuit board that makes it definitely a muzzle flash and then a loud bang. So you can see that the M60 crew is pointing well away from the narrator. And we're going to do some simulated fire for you so you know what to expect during the battle. M60, fire. Okay, it was loud, that's going to hear. Now, the contender will also have the same weapon. Now, the M60, again, at over 50 tons. The Americans, this is built by Chrysler, the Americans designed this tank so that it would be for crew protection. So they put in that additional armor. The front glacis plate of the vehicle, most weapons in the world, most other tank barrel weapons cannot penetrate that front armor. So the strength of the M60 is its crew protection and its thick armor. So during Battle Royale, any shot on the front glacis plate of this tank would not penetrate. It would be a bounce off, even if they actually did hit the tank. Also, the front of the turret is massively armored. Now, a tank has less armor on the sides and in the back, and the engine of the tank is in the back here of this M60. So any shot to the rear of the tank could be a debilitating hit that could knock out the engine of the tank and take that tank out of action. So what you're going to be looking for is how the different tanks are maneuvering using their strengths against the weaknesses of the enemy tank. Now I'm just waiting for the marshals to get the other tank ready to come out. Here on the M60, a great American tank was replaced. By the time we got to the Gulf War, the M1 Abrams was already in service, and this was a second-line tank in American service. And the 1991 Gulf War was the last time that the M60 was used by our American allies. But as we know, it's gone on for service right into the 21st century. So in addition to the driver here at the front of the vehicle is Ashley Wade. Ashley is our M60 driver today. And Brendan up top, he's the TC or tank commander and the gunner. Say hi, Brendan. So you also notice on the M60 that they have the commander has a cupola up there, and it is also a mini turret that turns, and he has a 50 caliber machine gun. Now, it will not be firing during the simulation, but that just shows you that the tank was designed with that extra bit of firepower for infantry support. It has a coaxial machine gun, and it has a NATO standard 105 millimeter main weapon, and that was a standard throughout NATO. Most countries in NATO in the Cold War. Our Canadian Leopards had the 105. Many of our allies, the Australians, etc., used that common weapons so we can share and have common ammunition. All right, so let's turn away again and let's give one more fire demonstration, and I'm going to check on the Leopard. All right, we're seconds out from the contender coming out. Now, how this is going to work is that you're not going to be voting for your favorite tank. You're not going to be voting for your favorite flag that is on the tank. What you're going to determine is how the crews perform, how they use the World of Tanks arena and all its features to best protect their tank, and how they would have outperformed the enemy vehicle. And you guys will decide who wins World of Tanks Battle Royale by applause and shouting. Does that sound pretty good?
Really good dude.
Okay, we're just waiting for the enemy tank to come out. I see the turret moving there. We have a Belgian Army Leopard 185 with a Canadian flag. Now the Germans, in the post-war period, the Germans continued to design tanks. And what's one of the fastest made battle tanks that was ever produced by many nations, including Canada. Canada just retired its last Leopard 1 tank in 2017, had deployed Leopard 1 tanks in 2006 Afghanistan before we converted over to the Leopard 2. Still used by 14 NATO nations, and unfortunately, what we're seeing in the world today is that this model, Leopard 185, 250 of them were sold to Ukraine, and we can see these Cold War tanks, being used on the battlefield today. So, interesting times in world history when your museum artifacts are now also telling the contemporary story that you see in the news every day. So, the Leopard also shares the same main weapon. It is a 105mm main cannon, but it weighs just 40 tons. So there's 10 tons difference in armor and weight between the M60 and the Leopard 1. So the concept the Germans have is that the tank that strikes first will win a battle. Whereas the Americans wanted their tank to be able to take a beating and keep on fighting. So they sacrificed armor for speed and maneuverability. 10 tons less gives this vehicle, it can be a lot faster, it can be a lot more maneuverable. So you're going to see the Leopard crew, if they're doing their job well, they're going to be trying to really outrun the M60, get in behind it, and really outmaneuver them on the battlefield. Whereas the M60 crew should really be using their superior armor to fend off the Leopard and close that gap. Right. So, again, you're not going to be voting for your favorite tank. You're not going to be voting for your favorite flag. You're going to be voting on which crew do you believe outmaneuvered, outfought, and outsmarted their opponent in World of Tanks Battle Royale. Sound good? I'm going to be narrating from a safe distance. This is going to be very quick, very fast, and very loud. And then following Battle Royale, we're going to get right into the Gulf War reenactment. Tankers, take your positions. Leopard gunner, they're a little confused. The M60 tracks really well. Another shot by the M60. So far, the M60 is getting the most accurate in gunnery in this competition. Second shot, again by the Leopard in this position. I mean, by the M60. Leopard. Leopard finally. Firing on the move, not very effective, very difficult to hit. Rear engine of the M60 exposed, but no shot fired. Very good match today. Pretty much. What? M60 is trying to aim at the Leopard. Leopard now pivoting with their frontal armor towards the M60 in a good position. But too little too late. The M60 has gone behind the hill. We're going to give them one more round and then put them out front. Shot by the M60. Great work, but look at that, has the tank. The M60 gunner is keeping that main weapon on the target. Leopard really exposed them here, not really behind the hill. Oh, a shot right on the turret of the Leopard by the M60. All right, guys, let's bring it up front. Bring it up front. Now, Aquino Tank Weekend each year is a Battle Royale tournament between these two crews and these two tanks. Friday on VIP Day, the M60 came out with a surprise win against the Leopard. So with three rounds for the whole weekend, it's currently M60 1 and Leopard Team 0. So now we're going to find out what our visitors today think about your performance. I saw some great hits. I saw some amazing tracking with the gun. Notice when the body of the vehicle is moving, but yet the turret continues to track its target. That's showing a lot of experience. And also I saw where people were using or a crew is using the features to protect their vehicles. So this is how it works. By applause and shouting and hollering, who believes that the M60 won Battle Royale? By applause and hoots and shouts, who believes the Leopard crew won Battle Royale? Wow, that's close. Let me do this. One more time. Who believes the M60 crew won? One last time. Who believes the Leopard crew won? Now we're going to be in a very difficult position for Sunday. This is going to be very difficult because we have one win for the M60, and on day 2, I'm sorry guys, but I have to call a draw.
I mean, it was half and half.
It was pretty good.
It was half and half.
Some people are not happy about the draw, but then you come tomorrow and cheer louder. So currently it is 1-0. One more to go for Battle Royale, World of Tanks Battle Royale, Aquino 2026. Now, they're both, these people here have been training for over a decade on these vehicles and doing this safely and making it exciting and educational. So let's hear it for both crews of these tanks. Okay. So these tanks are going to get safely off the field. Stay put because we're going to do the finale show of the day. Veterans of the Gulf War. It is going to be fast. It is going to be loud. And we're going to tell you a story about the 18 British veterans who flew here to Oshawa, flew to Canada for Aquino Tank Weekend, and some experiences that they had in the 1990-91 Gulf War. Sound good? All right, I'll see you in a few minutes. He's got a hot one?
make sure this made the show. Now this is called a dinky because it's small. The wheelbase is a 90-inch rather than a larger one. And what we have on here, it's been custom made, customized on like in the front by soldiers. You've got a machine gun on the front. We got rid of the windshield, got rid of the doors, extra jerry cans, and we got twin machine guns on the back. And a lot of extra jerry cans. So this can go quite a ways. You probably heard the desert rats and that story of World War II and stuff. This is of that time. Now what we have, the front gunner and the rear gunner, we have a brother and sister scenario here. We have Theon in the front, it's Theon, and we have Yeston in the back. And you will meet their father, Calvin. He's a veteran of the Gulf War. He comes over and he brings his kids. So this is a generational thing. So you're going to hear them in action very soon, and these guns are pretty noisy. So, okay, let's move on up here. The next one up, this is a Ferret Scout car. It's got a Rolls-Royce engine in it, and this was built in the early 50s. They produced them for about 2 decades, and they stopped using them shortly after the Gulf War. This is the 2 individuals here. They are the exact crew that were there 36 years ago in the Gulf War.
That's awesome.
This is Jim Lindsay in the front and Josh Russell-Gill in the back. Now imagine, they lived in this. 4 months, they lived in this. There's no roof, but they had a tent pitched at the side. Was it dry every night? You know, they're in the desert, but it gets extremely cold in the desert as well. But they lived in this vehicle. This is a fast vehicle. You can see it out here. It'll go as fast forward as it does in reverse. So you're going to see some of this stuff soon. Very reliable. Canadian Armed Forces have these, and we had these up to 1980, and then we stopped using them. The Brits carried on to the mid-90s, and there were a lot of these in the Gulf War. These guys come over every year for this show. They all live in the UK. What we have here, this is representative of the 3 armored corps, the armored regiments, I should say, that was in the Gulf War. The 3 regiments, British regiments. Now the first we have, this is call sign 21, Rope Rupert. This was with the 14th, 20th King's Hussars. And we have almost the original crew here. The driver is Stu Craddock, put your hand up. The commander is Les Critchlow. And we have John Whiffen. All 3 of them were in the Gulf War together in vehicles like this. It's a 76 millimeter cannon. It's light. It's got a Jaguar J60 engine in it, and it's aluminum magnesium alloy. So it's very light. It's meant to be fast and very nimble. It can go over stuff that a tank would sink and they'd stay on top. Let's have a look at the next one. You notice we got a black rat on here. Different regiments had different symbols. So now we come down to this one. This is 2-3 Alpha. And this was with the Queen's Royal Irish Hussars. And they're based out of Ireland, Northern Ireland. And we have George Clark, raise your hand, George, he's the driver. Reggie Campbell on the top. And they were both in, this was the exact vehicle that Reggie was in. Reggie, notice it's a teddy bear up here. What's the significance of that? Everywhere he's been, he's taken his teddy bear. Now, he's not a mommy's boy, he has several children. So, okay. That's it. Move. The last one. Last but not least, this is the Royal Scots. Now this is new because we've had the vehicle, but we've never had any member of the Royal Scot, let me get it right here, the Royal Scot Dragoon Guards. And the driver is Graham Bell. Sorry? There your bell, he says, okay. Get the khaki. And these guys, we were able to find them on social media. We had their vehicle. We wanted them to be represented here, so they've come over from Glasgow, Scotland. Now the last guy hitching a ride was a good buddy of mine that we went through basic training here at the Ontario Regiment a long time ago. And he's a good friend of the museum, and he's actively involved with us in everything he knows. So let's hear for Glenn Hines too. I should explain something before I describe these three vehicles. The last three that you saw were Scorpions, and they had a 76mm. They were the recce troop for the armored, for the actual large Challenger 1 tanks. So these guys would go out, the last group, would go out ahead of the big tanks and make sure that there's no enemy waiting to get them or that kind of thing. This was a little different. These were tanks. These two here, they're called Strikers, and they were tank killers. They sent a missile back, you can see. This call sign here has the missile bin up. There's 5 missiles in the back, and they're called swing fire missiles. You know right now in Ukraine, they're sending the drones out, they run the wire, it looks like a fishing line behind them. Well, back then, that used to be the technology before you could radio control stuff. So it's running, but back in 1991, in the Gulf, these things, they could see a tank 4 kilometers away. They could fire this missile, a missile out of here, and this missile would go 4 kilometers. That's the maximum range, and it would trail a wire, like a fishing line. And it would take out, any main battle tank. So it's interesting, there's 2 different regiments. There were only 2 regiments, and we'll go to the first one. The first, this one is call sign 31 Delta, and we've got Rick Stewart. Rick is the driver. He's not a Brit, he's actually an American from California. Somehow he latched onto this crew and us, and he's been coming up here every year forever. He's also avid, he has a many number of tanks and armored things himself. So he's up here a lot. What we have is Sean Bannister, He's the crew commander. And behind him is Calvin Bird. Calvin, put your hand up. Calvin's the father of the 2 kids you saw in the Land Rover. He brings them over. So these vehicles would spot a tank, and they could even have this, they could hide behind the hill and have a spotter on top of the hill, just a guy with this special external remote thing, and you would identify a tank, send this missile up in the air, and take out the tank, and the tank wouldn't even know you're there. They were very effective. And the last vehicle, I'll get down, that's a Scimitar. That is like the Scorpions you just saw, but it doesn't have a 76mm cannon. It has a 30mm Raritan cannon. It's a high speed. It takes 3 cartridges of 3 rounds of 30mm. It's a fast firing, high velocity, fast firing cannon. And that was more suitable to protect these vehicles. Now they had no armor. If a tank fired at them, they'd be gone first hit. So these guys would go out. So for every one of these, I think you had 4 to 6 of the Scimitars standing out in front of them, protecting them. So it worked rather well. So let's get down. That was one regiment here. That regiment is the one back there was twice. It's the Queen's Royal Irish Hussars.
First degrees Dragoon Guards, Welsh Cavalry.
This next vehicle, I saw this for sale in the UK. A guy found it in the bush. It had been in the bush for 15 years. It had trees growing out of it. And he restored it. And I checked out the history of it. Because the guy he liked vehicles, but wasn't into history. So I cut a deal with the guy. We got it shipped over here. We got it painted up. I did research. I found who was on this vehicle, the original crew, and we got pictures of it, the way it looked during the Gulf War. And we painted it over. Then we reached out to the crew and actually talked to them. So one of the original crew members is Paul Harris. Paul Harris. There's this picture we have in the Gulf, and there's this young lad with this bright red hair. And we always wondered who he was, and we found out, it took us a few years to track him down. And we tracked him down, and that's the guy in the photo. And then we have John Seeley. John's the driver. John also you were on a different striker, but the same troop. How many were in the troop? 4? 5? 5 strikers in a troop. And we also had Pete Bradbury. Pete, put up your hand. 4. So this all saw service. The stories, would you speak to these guys of how the American had these A-10 warthogs. A lot of you probably know what I'm talking about. And they're over there going over, and a lot of times they can't differentiate between friend and foe. And a warthog would go by and start strafing these guys. They'd be jumping off and hiding in the trenches and hope the vehicle wasn't taken out. Like the stories you get over there, it's just horrific, crazy. Now this last one, this is the 16th Fit. This is the 16th Fit Queen's Lancers, also known as the Scarlet Lancers. Go back into things like the charge of the Light Brigade and stuff. This is the same unit, same regiment, and the original driver we have is Steve Baker. Steve, put up your hand. Where are you living now, Steve? He came up from South Carolina. He's moved. He used to be Michigan. Oh, okay. No, he's not a Lancer, but if you come over to the Desert Storm area and you went through the Sultan, the command post, you would have had George Clegg give you the royal tour of it. So George is a veteran of the Gulf War with the other regiment. gentleman, the young gentleman we have here, he's one of our helpers. I don't know your name, sir. But he wanted a ride, so we give him a ride. You know, if you guys like this kind of band of brothers, and if you like to get involved with this kind of thing, we have a recruitment booth down there. So, if you're interested, you're at that point in your life, give it some thought. That's it for the British.
Right, next we have the American contingent and a few vehicles that I've already explained in today's show. I'll be very quick here, but up front we have the reconnaissance vehicle for the Americans, the Humvee, and obviously super long service with the United States and with many other nations, utilized by the U.S. In the 1991 Gulf War. Lightly armored vehicle, but with a lot of punch. It's got a 50 cal up top, and you're going to see that active in the show. Next is that ubiquitous U.S. vehicle. You can see them go around all day long. Maybe you've even had a ride in it. It's the American-built M113 Armored Personnel Carrier, or APC. It is a aluminum armored vehicle. It's not made to protect those inside from getting hit by a round of a tank, but from small arms and shrapnel. It's pretty much a battle taxi. It has a driver, it has a crew commander and gunner. You can see he also has a 50 caliber machine gun, and it holds a section of infantry in the back. And this time it's an American vehicle carrying our British infantry. And finally, for the Americans, as you saw in the World of Tanks Battle Royale, we have the M60A3 MBT that is representing the United States Marine Corps, because that was the final deployment of those vehicles before they were retired from service with the U.S. Army. And now we have the final contingent, the OFF-4, the enemy force. Marshall sends out the Iraqis. Now Iraq under Saddam Hussein is a client state of the Soviet Union. So like many client states of the Soviet Union, they were told Soviet-era equipment to use a second line what the Army again, talk about recent military history and then what's happening today is quite surprising. This is a BMP-1. It is a Soviet-era armored personnel carrier. Different from the American APC, the M113. You can see that it actually has a turret, a main weapon, and it also has a launcher for an anti-tank system. So this was greatly here during the Cold War. The concept of the rifle is not so much a battle tactic, but as combining a light tank and an infantry carrier into one vehicle. It is amphibious, and it has a driver, a commander. Down the turret also has a gunner, and it also has a section of Iraqi troops. Following up, we have a Soviet-era T-54. The T-54 and T-55 were the most built main battle tank of the Cold War. So it's estimated that well up to with all the different variants used by all the different client states, and that up to maybe even 70,000 or 80,000 of these tanks were built. And that's why here in 2026, we did a vehicle of that vintage that was designed at the end of the Second World War and then produced in the 50s, 60s, and 70s is still on battlefields today, both in the Middle East and more recently, sadly, the Ukrainian war, as the entire force stocks going into that conflict. So we have the conscript troops of the Iraqi army in Soviet-era Cold War vehicles. That's why the Iraqis didn't produce their own armor. They were buying them from the Soviet Union. So now we're going to get into the battle. It's going to be fast. It's going to be loud. And this again, if you're sensitive to that, this is where you might want to put in those earplugs, especially for the young children in the audience. So the Iraqis are going to get into position. You can see Museum President Al Duffy is getting up to his perch there in the bleacher. He's going to be radio controlling with all the different vehicles, making sure that they're following the plan that we have laid out, and also obviously for safety. So we're about to start any moment. We're just going to check with the marshals. Grab your hearing protection and prepare for the veterans of the Gulf War battle signal. So here we can see the Iraqi troops getting into a position. Believe it or not, the desert is not all sand. In the delta, especially in Iraq, there are very lush, the green delta, lots of big rivers and water and green spaces. So here, they're deep inside Iraq, and they have no expectation that the Allies are anywhere near them. This is before they had GPS technology. They're using old maps. And this was actually a military secret at the time. We now take it for granted. It's in our phones, it's in our cars, it's in most of our devices, global positioning systems. And the Western Allies were actually developing this and had it in their vehicles as they charged through the desert. So, you know, in the big open desert, they were able to know exactly where they were and navigating to get around the flank of the Iraqi troops. So you see the armored column here, they have shut down their vehicles. They're dismounting into a defensive position with no expectation that they would see any enemy on this front. The enemy, as far as they know, is far, far away. They'll be expecting them possibly coming out of Saudi Arabia. Now they did have some elite troops. They had the Republican Guard, but the vast majority of Saddam Hussein's troops were conscripts. Many of them were months behind in even getting paid. So they were forced defensive position. Talking about the vehicles and the Soviet vehicles that they were using, you also notice that they were sold a lot of small arms by the Soviet Union. So the Iraqi troops, they have AK-47s, RPGs, and other Soviet equipment that was sold to the Iraqi army. Saddam Hussein. Really no urgency on the part of these troops. Again, they're not expecting any action on this front. What? But yet, out of the desert and into their position comes the leading elements of the British armor. Here comes their light reconnaissance. Land Rover is slowly sneaking up, and of course the Ferret also scanning, looking for the enemy position. Land Rovers put themselves behind a position. They're now observing the Iraqis. Ferret's just peeking over the hill to have a better look. Providing some covering fire as the Land Rover swings around the rear of the position, scoping it all out.
Level the first armor division.
Notice the Land Rover is also drawing color smoke. They want to get air power though where the Iraqi position is, so they snuck around the rear of the enemy position. And now that they've spotted the enemy and reported them, they have retreated to some cover, and they wait for the heavier wrecking units to give them some support. Swing around. Now, Scorpions come out, heavier reconnaissance vehicles. They know that there is heavy Soviet type armor
Although the first division is 1,300, they cannot talk to each other over the radio. ground campaign is over within 1 hours. While coalition losses were relatively low at 292 dead and 776 wounded, Iraqi losses numbered in the tens of thousands, many of whom surrendered with minimal resistance. Despite their overwhelming victory, the coalition controversially left Saddam Hussein in power in Iraq, where he stayed until NATO forces overthrew him in 2003.
That was good.
Now, Kuwait is liberated and sovereignty is restored, establishing a firm Western military presence in the Persian Gulf, setting a precedent for military interventions based on international law.
Mike up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, how was that? Let's hear it for the veterans and volunteers.
Woo!
What an incredible reenactment. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you're enjoying Aquino Tank Weekend. We're still open for 2 more hours. Get a ride, visit the gift shop, head down to the Gulf War area and meet these veterans in person. So much to do and see here at Aquino Tank Weekend. Thank you for coming out. We'll see you again tomorrow.